Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're talking about some cards that you can likely pick up now for upcoming commanders that you are wanting to build in Bloomburrow. We are literally doing this on day one, talking about not just the Precons, but some other commanders as well. As you can see, I'm wearing my green shirt, so it is see-through. But before we get into it, I just wanted to ask you guys if you could subscribe, share the video around, like it and stuff. All that stuff helps the channel grow. It's a free way for you guys to be able to support me, and I would love to become a huge, Magic content creator and stuff. And, I don't know, even if I could get invited to go to Tolarian or something like that, some silly little goals of mine, I would love to kind of do that. So if you guys could support me for that, that would be amazing. So we're not going to be talking about, stuff like Roaming Throne, at least not Roaming Throne. I don't want to talk about, some things that are huge, generic, kind of very expensive upgrades. I want to talk about ones that are potentially ones that will slip under the radar, or ones that are below $1. Some of them are a little bit more expensive, some of them are below $1 and stuff that you may not necessarily think of when you're talking about these kinds of decks. The other ones that I'm not talking about are ones that are super obvious or going to be within those decks as well. So I'm not talking about Chatterfang here, because we already know that Chatterfang is within the Squirrel Precon. Most of the ones that I'm going to try and talk about are ones that I do not expect to be reprinted. So we're going to start off with Bello here, and I absolutely love Bello. He is a very, very interesting commander. He makes it so that all of your non-equipment and non-aura enchantments you control will become 4/4 elementals when they're mana value 4 or greater. 4/4 elemental creatures when on your turn that have indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, the first thing I thought of when I saw him was vehicles. He can animate vehicles, and you can make a big army of vehicles on your turn that can do some really kind of great stuff. So there are a lot of vehicles that are relatively cheap. These ones here that I'm looking at, though, they are ones that are the 40k, Doctor Who, Universes Beyond ones. These two here, because both of them aren't going to get reprinted, right? They're not going to get reprinted. This is not a set that's going to have vehicles anyway. I mean, maybe the Precon will, but doubtful. But both of these would be great choices, ones that are stuff that do stuff on attacking and stuff, because they're still going to get the procs even if they've been turned into elementals. We've got, the Nautiloid ship would be huge to kind of turn that into an elemental and throw it at someone. Blaster DJ is going to give all of those vehicles modular 1, so they'll all get +1/+1 so when they come out, and then they're also going to be able to, when they die, put those +1/+1s onto something else. If if they single target remove one with like an exile or something, I guess, but that's not die. If they happen to remove them, then, you've got the option there. If they remove the indestructible or something and one of your ships survives, it's then going to have a million kind of +1/+1s onto it. We've got Horde Hauler here. A very interesting one, especially because it's going to create treasures based on each artifact you control. We're planning on controlling a lot of artifacts. We've got Sky Sovereign over here. The ones that have flying are really nice as well. So this one, he's going to deal 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls whenever it attacks, or when it enters battlefield as well. So, you swing that at people, you're removing things, and it's an indestructible elemental that they can't do anything about, really. We've got like Weatherlight and Thunderhawk Gunship, both great ships. We've got the Reaver Titan, which is, I find this hilarious. Imagine this little raccoon with magic that's like animating things, and the thing that he animates is this huge freaking Reaver Titan to throw at someone. The Smuggler's Buggy is a great one as well, because you're going to be able to proc this so often, as well as the fact that when it comes in, it will have haste, because it gets turned into the elemental that then has haste, and then you throw it at someone and boom. All right. Other ones we've got are, there's a couple like different enchantments. So City on Fire or Fire Emancipation. Both of those are great options, to be able to turn into things. In actual enchantments obviously can be turned as well, not aura ones, just enchantments. And then you've got like this Chandra over here, which I thought was very interesting because it's going to buff all of them up to 6/4s, right? Really, really cool. All right, next we've got Zinnia. Zinnia, I assume it is. That's how you pronounce that. You know, he is going to be creating a whole bunch of 1/1s, and then they get buffed up by +X+0 based on those. And then it also gives all of your creature spells, not even just animal ones, the opportunity of being a parent and giving them offspring too, where they get to create an offspring. So stuff that's very interesting. Kaith, very interesting. You know, not just because of the fact that you're going to be able to give all your non-token creatures fabricate, so then they can potentially come in with a colorless, you know, servo artifact, which is going to give another buff over. You've also got the fact that you can do 2 and then do 2 and then tap to be able to populate. Oh, really, really nice. We've got Panharmonicon. Because of this, the way this precon is, it is built around a whole bunch of ETBs, right? It's a lot of ETB stuff, which is what they're listed, but it's also, you know, other stuff, but this is going to trigger all of those ETBs. We've got Displace a Kitten to be able to trigger those ETBs again. Elish Norn again to trigger those. This is one of the most expensive upgrades I've got on the list, but I think that, you know, someone would have yelled at me if I didn't mention it. It's going to be an expensive upgrade. It's going to potentially get even more expensive now that, you know, there's a command that's literally based around ETBs. We've got Raid Bombardment, thanks to my friend who suggested this one, because this would be insane with all of those 1/1s going around. Another round to be able to, you know, flicker all that stuff and then trigger all of those ETBs again. We've got War Leader's Call. It just needs to be base 1/1. It doesn't matter if they've got +1/+1, just base 1/1. The other one I've got in here is Sneak Attack, because I thought this would be an interesting one, right? Because when you do it, you're going to be able to get those ETBs. So if you somehow happen to kind of fall behind or something, you can do this, get the ETBs, and then, you know, they happen to die, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you won't be able to do the offspring mechanic with this, but depending on what you're throwing in, I think there's a potentially good idea. It depends. Like, we have to see the full kind of precon list to be able to decide completely if it's worth kind of getting these ETBs just from this. There's a couple birds as well that are really good options. Both create 1/1, you know, spirits or bird tokens. Ojatak to triple all those creature tokens. We've got Arnhem Pakal, who's going to, whenever she attacks, create more 1/1s, as well as the fact that she gets buffed up, and yeah, really crazy stuff. We've got Locust God here, draw a card, get 1/1s, because of the fact that a lot of ETBs are draw a card. You're going to get a lot of insects out. Nesting Dovehawk, I think, is probably one of my favorite kind of sleeper cards, especially because you'll potentially have 2 of them out. Then at the beginning of your turn, you get to populate twice. Each time you put a creature token in, you get to put a +1/+1 onto both of them. It's crazy. And then you've got, you know, City on Fire again, because you've got so many like 1/1 creatures out. You could easily do the Convoke here and just get this huge damage out. Next, we've got Hazel of the Rootbloom from the Bloomburrow precon. This is also potentially going to be covering like Camellia, because both of them kind of are based around squirrels and squirrel tribal, but also food and, you know, treasure tokens and squirrel tokens. So stuff like Mirkwood Bats or Jaheira to be able to take advantage of the fact that we're going to be creating a lot of tokens, and then we can tap those tokens for mana instead of needing to sack them, or, you know, that kind of thing, as well as, you know, just dealing damage whenever we actually bring them in. Peregrine to be able to make it so we're creating additional food anytime we create any tokens. Parallel Lives, double all those tokens we're creating. Grave Pact is a really nice one, because if you're sacking all those squirrel tokens that you've got out, then you're going to make each person sack something. Like you can potentially do a board wipe by just sacking away all of your little squirrels. You got Agent of the Iron Throne here, very nice one as well. Another drain attack, very similar to like to Mirkwood Bats there. Guillaume, Master Chef here. If you want to lean more into like the food tokens, you've got that option there of being able to do that. Academy Manufacturer, all your foods now become clue food treasures as well. Witch's Oven, sack something, create some foods. Sir Ginger, whenever you sack foods, or whenever you sack any artifacts really, you get to put a +1/+1 onto her, and then scry. We've got Miss Bumbleflower here. This one's probably the hardest one, I think, to be able to figure out upgrades for, because of the fact that it could be such a wide variety of things in this deck. It's based around group hugging. She's going to make people draw cards, and then you can put a +1/+1 onto something and then give something flying whenever you cast a spell. So you could potentially buff up other people's stuff. You can potentially, you know, make it so that opponents draw cards. You can make your opponents fight each other. You can break up marriages, all that kind of stuff, because, you know, make people attack each other. So we've got stuff like the second Doctor here, who's going to, or, you know, struggle for Project Purity, who you give everyone the choice. Would you like to draw a card? And then if they draw a card, then we get to draw a card. That kind of thing. Very nice options to kind of, you know, group hug. We've got Master of Ceremonies. You give everyone the option. Would you like money, friends, or secrets? Because you can only choose one in life. So, you know, money, then you get to treasure, you know, friends, and you get some tokens, or, you know, secrets, you get to draw cards. And, you know, everyone, the other people get to do that as well as you get to do it. And then we've got Free Strider Lookout here, who I mentioned in my other video, because of the fact that putting +1/+1s onto other people's stuff is still committing a crime. You can potentially get a lot of cards out, you know, get a lot of lands out and stuff. We've got Nils, another card that's like, hey, here's a +1/+1. And now any of your things that have counters on them can't attack me unless you're paying the tax. Felidar Sovereign, a lot of group hug decks are based around, you know, gaining life for yourself and stuff. This is just a win con. Wedding Ring, I just love the flavor of this card. You know, give someone a wedding ring, and then all of a sudden they are drawing cards, you're drawing cards. They're gaining life, you're gaining life, etc. Give everyone the option. Would you like to create a treasure? Etc. Just kind of like, you know, taking advantage of the fact that other people are going to be drawing cards, other people are going to be doing stuff. Would you like to bank them fight each other? Next one here we've got is Alania and Bria. I've kind of lumped them together. They're both otters, and mostly kind of, you know, based around otter tribal and stuff. They're both kind of, you know, based around spell slinging, so whether it's prowess or copying spells. So Lutri, I know Lutri is banned. If your playgroup does not allow you to play Lutri, then honestly, have a serious conversation with them. I'm not talking about having Lutri as a companion, because that's a bit, you know, a bit strong, but just, you know, having the option of having Lutri in your deck is great. We've got Frolicking Familiar here. Buff up your you know, flying otter wizard. Sink into Stupor here is an option of either a ETB pings you for 3, or sorry, you can either play it as the land, or you can just return something. It's a very cheap modal spell. Modal land. We've got Invert Polarity here. I just love the kind of theme behind this, as well as the fact that because it's a copying spell, like, because it is you stealing that spell, it's going to be really great. We've got Veyran. I didn't want to put in too many otters into this options, but this is a great option. And the new Ral as well. Sorcerer class, get more stuff from casting your instants and sorceries. Pyromancer Goggles, a great kind of mana rock when you're going to be casting red instants and sorceries, which we plan on doing. We got Finneas and Byrke here, both rabbits, both based around having a huge amount of creatures. And that's really it. Huge amount of creatures, huge +1/+1s. So we've got stuff like, you know, the previous rabbits from WoW here. Creature tokens get +1/+1. That fits. Bunnycorn. Look, we've got a huge amount of non-land permanents. This is now a 50-50 Bunnycorn hitting you in the face. Preston. I had Preston in here just because he will help fill our board with a lot of extra things. And if we have, like, you know, stuff like Finneas is putting a +1/+1 on each creature you control that's a token as well. So Finneas is going to buff up all of those illusions. Claim Jumper here, a very nice rabbit from OTJ that's going to let us, you know, get a planes and stuff, get, you know, some mana ramp. Kadira, create a whole bunch of tokens, white rabbit tokens. Jaheira, turn all those rabbit tokens that we've got into mana dorks. Inspiring Leader, buff them all up. Ojatar, triple them all. Trostani here, gain a whole bunch of life whenever stuff enters. And then Benny Brax here as well, making it so that we draw cards. Growing Ranks, I actually put a lot of cards in here because I really love it. Growing Ranks is really nice because it's got the populate. If we're playing like some really nice, rabbits that have offspring, then we could potentially do some really cool stuff with this, with the populate, like, copy something that's already buffing everything up. Cathar's Crusade, just put a +1/+1 on each time. Each time something enters the battlefield, put +1/+1s on everything else. Everything now is a 20/20. We've got Flubs the Fool. Now, this is the one that I think a lot of people were questioning what cards you could potentially run with Flubs. Personally, I had a look at him and I'm like, okay, so if I play a land, I need to draw a card if I have nothing in hand, which is very unlikely, or I need to discard a card. So I went hard into that discarding a card. So I've got like, real here when I get +1/+0, draw cards when I discard something, Ghost of Ramirez, choose something in my graveyard that was discarded, put it back into my hand. We've got Surly here, get a +1/+1 each time I discard a creature. Brass Tunnel Grinder, which is going to get very easily it's transformed and then become a mana dork that does discover for us. A Bag of Holding, stuff to take advantage of the fact that we're going to be discarding a lot as well. So Bag of Holding, anytime you discard something, it gets exiled underneath it, and then you can sack it to put it back into your hand. We've got Inti here to add additional discard in case we don't have out our commander here. Put a +1/+1s onto stuff and give it trample, as well as we get some impulse draw here too. Currency Converter, just make all those cards that we exile back into our graveyard from discarding, and then from there we get to create treasures or create some rogues. Kate, more discard kind of stuff. Conspiracy Theorists, take advantage of discard. Whenever we discard, make people mill to, that kind of stuff. Casual, for this one, I kind of went hard into the birds and the bird kind of tribal stuff, as well as kind of the combat damage, and focused on that. So, Aerial Extortionist, we're going to be able to exile a whole bunch of stuff. Kanji here gives all our attacking creatures with flying +2/+0. Kanji's Lieutenant, a lot of kind of the Kanji stuff, actually. Aven Interrupter is a really nice one. It actually has dropped a bit now, but it's actually a great, like one of the best kind of interrupts you're going counter spells that you're going to be able to find in white. Obviously, we've got access to blue, so we don't need to stress about it as much, but I just love the idea of someone plays something, you exile it with the Aven Interrupter, and now it's plotted, and now it's absolutely useless for them. Reconnaissance Mission and Bident as well. Both of them are built around getting us card draw when we deal that combat damage, because we've got a whole bunch of flying creatures. We're going to be able to do that. And finally, we've got Ygra, Eater of All. This is the one that I'm most excited about. It is a huge elemental cat that's turning everything to salt, and the flavor of it is freaking awesome. It turns all other creatures into food artifacts, as well as the fact that they basically gain the food artifact tag, as well as they get the additional, you can sack it and stuff. You force people to sack stuff if they're going to attack you. And then whenever a food is put into the graveyard, you get to buff up Ygra. So stuff that I saw here that I thought would be interesting is like big kind of, board wipes for destroying all artifacts. There's a 4-mana board wipe for destroying all artifacts. Whenever an artifact is put into an opponent's graveyard from a battlefield, you draw a card. We've got Pest Infestation here. Just destroy all enemy artifacts. Create a whole bunch of pest tokens as well. We've got Experimental Confectioner here. Whenever you sack a food, you get to create some black rat tokens. So technically, all of these it's all other creatures. It's not even like, all other non-token creatures. So technically these black rats are coming in and they're food, because I don't know, you like eating rat for some reason. We've got Fade from History here, another big board wipe for destroying all artifacts. Bane of Progress here, making it so that when it comes in, you destroy all artifacts and then put a +1/+1 onto it for each one destroyed. If you've got, people have got stuff out everywhere. You put Bane of Progress out, boom, you've just done a board wipe, you've just, you know, destroyed all their enchantments as well. You've done so much with one card. And Force of Vigor is another one where it's just kind of like you've got Ygra out, and now you exile a green card from your hand to be able to do this, and just boom, you can destroy 2 artifacts straight away. The other one that I want to talk about here is an infinite, which is very nice. So technically, when we have Ygra out, all other artifacts are food, right? All creatures are food, which means that the squirrel tokens that are created by Camellia here are food, which means that if we sack one of them with Ash Nods, we're going to get 2 colorless mana, we're going to get another squirrel, and then we're also going to be put +1/+1s onto Ygra. Then we sack that squirrel, boom, 2 more colorless mana. That squirrel comes back, and then Ygra gets bigger. It's just like Ygra's infinite buffet of squirrels. Yeah, anyway, that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Goodbye.